A team based in the West Midlands of England, West Bromwich Albion form one half of the Black Country Derby. They have had their fair share of ups and downs over the years. Set for another year in the Championship for the 23-24 season, can we get them back to the Premier League and make them the best team in the Black Country once again? Welcome to the Midlands. You join me on day one in charge of West Bromwich Albion. Let's have a little look around the club before we get in to a 5-season project. Starting off, we are going to be playing our first season in the Sky Bet Championship. We are predicted by the media to finish in 11th place, so it could be a difficult first season. Looking at the club history, they have won the top flight once, but that was quite a while ago. I do believe it was pre-war in the 20s. They have won 5 FA Cups. They have won the Sky Bet Championship 3 times. They have 1 Carabao Cup or League Cup to their name and 2 Community Shields. Let's go and look at the first 11 that we are going to inherit. So they like to play in a 4-2-3-1 system. So that is the system that I will implement for at least the first season. We will give it a good go to try and keep this as realistic as possible in terms of how we play our football. If we're successful, we might stick with it for the full 5 years. If we need to change, if we get out of the Championship though, there is a chance that we could move that tactic to another tactic. But let's look at some of the players that we have inherited then. So their first 11 looks like it's Palmer, Townsend, Peters, Ajayi, Pippa at right back, OK, Chalobah, Sarmiento, Swift, Wallace and Dyke. So let's look at some of these players then. Sarmiento being the first one, obviously, that catches the attention. The loanee from Brighton, no chance of turning that into a permanent deal. So we are going to try and use him as best we can in the first season to hopefully help us out of the Championship. We have Swift, who plays just behind the striker, 28 years old, valued at 6.2 to 7.4 million pounds. Hopefully he can get involved in attacks and again help us score goals going forwards. We have Wallace on the right hand side of the pitch. Jed Wallace, valued at 5.4 to 6.6 million pounds, 29 years old, likes to get the crowd going, hits free kicks with power and runs with the ball often. In the middle of the park we have Turkish player OK Yakuzlu. He is valued at 13 to 16.5 million pounds, valued as a star player in the team, so hopefully he's one that we could certainly use in the short term. Going forwards, we might want to replace him with a younger player, but he still looks as if he is an integral part of the team. We then have Chalobah next to him, Nathaniel Chalobah. He's a player 28 now, 2.2 to 3 million pounds, so hopefully if all goes to plan, he also will be long-term phased out of the team, I think. But it's one of those where how many we replace and how quickly we can do it. Then obviously the back four, Townsend, Peters. He's another one who's coming towards that end of career type of player. But he still has the stats that certainly will be value to us in the first season. But how long he will be at the club for, I am not too sure. Going forwards, let's have a little look at the board cultures then. So they want to strive to make progress on and off the pitch, work within the wage budget, grow the club's reputation. Then informational objectives, maximum 1-year contracts for over 32s, maximum 2-year contracts for over 30s, minimum 2-year contracts for first team players. In terms of the 5-year plan for the competitions, reach the playoffs. They want to be competitive in the FA Cup, be competitive in the Carabao Cup. So all 3 of those should really be achievable. The playoffs were predicted by the media to finish in 11th, so that could be a push, but we'll give it everything that we have got. The only other side caveat to all of these types of saves, no transfers in the first window. We will have that turned off until January at least, just to give us a chance to look at the squad, see exactly where we can build, and like I said, with the starting 11, see what players may need phasing out both short term and long term. Then going back to the objectives then, end of the 24-25 season, contract will be renewed hopefully, work towards gaining promotion to the Premier League. By the end of the 25-26 season, they want to win promotion to the Premier League. And then by the end of the 26-27, look to build on promotion in the Premier League. And that's the same for the final season. Let's have a look at what's expected from us by the club supporters. So the supporter culture is reach the Championship playoffs, be competitive against Wolves if we happen to play against them, be competitive against Aston Villa if we happen to play against them, and finish above Birmingham in the league. So Birmingham obviously in the same division. We should be able to check that one off, although Birmingham in real life in 23-24 had a good season but had all the off the pitch kind of issues, so hopefully we can outperform then, and then we will get back into the Premier League, and then it's down to us to be dealing with Wolves and Aston Villa. So we now know everything that is expected of us. We know the starting 11 and the tactic that we're going to play. How are we going to get on as we look to rebuild West Bromwich Albion? Let's kick things off by looking at all of the transfers that happened in the first season. Now, you would have heard me say we didn't actually do any transfer business in the summer transfer window. We left it all for January. And it meant that when we got to January, we actually didn't have a transfer budget at all. We were overspent on wages. So we had to start moving players out in order to start our rebuild. The first player that we allowed to leave the club was Kyle Bartley. Now, we only got about £500,000 for him, but I felt it was a fair deal. He went to QPR. The next player to leave the club was Reece Cleary. We got £2 million for him. He went to Luton. One that probably could have held on to. I do think that he has a lot more developing to do, but in the here and now, the money was far more important to us. And the next player to leave the club is certainly going to cause a few issues. Now, I've had these kinds of sales before where the fans of the real club see the save and they go, well, what are you doing? Why are you selling? The reason that I sold Jed Wallace was because we got £25 million for him. And unfortunately for Jed Wallace, that money was far more important in terms of the project that I want to make at the club instead of the here and now. So it made perfect sense to get that money in the bank so we could start building a team going forwards. So the first player that we spent money on was Paulinho. He's a right back who is highly rated by our scouting system. He came in with a 4.5-star potential from Vasco da Gama. Only cost around £1.2 million. And I think he's one that has a lot of potential to develop into our system as we go forwards. The next player to come in was another Brazilian, also from Vasco da Gama, and another one that carries a 4.5-star potential ability. A £2 million deal for Kean Barros. Plays as a defensive midfield smasher who really does start to play some decent football as the season goes along. Wilson Samake was the next one to come in. He can play as a right winger, can play as a striker. Another deal that only cost around £1.5 million to complete, and another one that I think, as we go through the save, will start to develop into a role in the team, whether that be on the right side or as a striker. The next player to come in was Harry Suter. I only paid £2.5 million for him, which I thought was an absolute bargain. We did have to put him on £24,500 in terms of his wages, but he's a player that's played for teams like Stoke, Leicester. They have got kind of Premiership aspirations themselves, and he has a potential to go on and be a catalyst for us, certainly in the Championship and then possibly into the Premiership once we get there. The next player to come in was Kevin, another Brazilian, so we have kind of gone Brazilian heavy really. Had to get some work permits on the go, but Kevin is an attacking midfielder who can play on the left wing or the right wing. Currently injured at the end of season 1, but he does have a lot of potential going forwards. He has 14 for pace, 12 for acceleration, crossing of 15, dribbling of 12, finishing of 15. So he has really got a lot of potential to build into a role in the team. The next player to come in was Wendell. He's a striker, also Brazilian. He has come to us from Porto. This one cost around £3 million to get the deal done, and I think he's solid for the Championship. Might need replacing if we get into the Premier League, but he's 5'11". He has pace of 14, acceleration of 13, dribbling, finishing, and first touch of 13. And I think he will be sound if we get certainly into the Premier League initially, and then he could be one that gets replaced as we go further into the save. Final player to come in was Keiki Rocha. He can play as a defender centre or a right back, which is good for the versatility. He has decent pace of 12, acceleration of 12, tackling of 13, marking of 13. He is 6'5", so he'll be an asset from set pieces, and he also should slot in nicely as a centre-back alongside our other players. So that is all the business that we got done. I think in the end we spent about 14 or 15 million pounds of the money that we got from the Jed Wallace deal, so hopefully carry some of that forwards, and we sorted out the wage budget problems, so it was all looking rather healthy. But did the players have an impact? Let's find out what happened in the competitions in season 1. The first competition to look at is the Carabao Cup. We went in at the first round, drawn against local team Warsaw, and we would win 4-1 in the first round. In the second round, we would be paired off against Harrogate. We would go on to beat them at 3-1. In the third round, we would be paired off against Bournemouth. We had a 2-2 draw in the game, but went through on penalties. And then in the fourth round, we would come up against Manchester City, where unfortunately we would go out of the competition losing 2-1. In the FA Cup, we would be paired off in the third round against another local team in Solihull Moors. We would beat them 3-0. Into the fourth round, we would be paired off against Sheffield Wednesday, where we would win 2-1. In the fifth round, we would come up against Chelsea, and they would hammer us 4-1 for us to go out at the fifth round stage. So that would leave us with the championship. Now, don't forget that the media had us down to finish in 11th place. But we don't listen to the media, because we would go and win the league and win it convincingly. We would play in 46 games. We would win 30 of them, draw 7, lose 9 times, have a goal difference of 59, which was the best in the league, and we would finish on 97 total points. So we would win the league by 4 points from Leicester, 7 points from Norwich, and then we had Southampton, Ipswich and Birmingham all in behind us. Looking at some of the stats, John Swift would score 23 goals and be our top league goal scorer. Jed Wallace would finish the season on a 7.25 average rating, which is interesting because he only spent half of the year with us. He also got 16 assists in the league. Jed Wallace also got 6 Player of the Match awards. So, all in all, a fantastic first season from the competitions. Okay, we didn't do too great in the Cups, but you're not expected to when you come up against Manchester City and Chelsea in each of those competitions. But to go on and win the Championship at the first time of asking and get promoted back into the Premier League is exactly what we were looking for. And that gap of 4 points to get us there means that there's no playoffs for us. We go up as champions and lift our first silverware of the save. A quick look at the finances as we head towards season 2 shows that we have a transfer budget for next season of £39.7 million. We have a wage budget of £670,000. We're only spending £456,000 on the current playing staff. We do, though, have an overall balance of £8.3 million. So would it be really irresponsible of us to go and spend £31 million more than the board currently have? That is something we're going to have to weigh up as we go into season 2. Looking at the club vision to see how we've performed. So our job security is very secure. Our feedback from the board is an A-. But in terms of the actionable objectives, work within the wage budget, we're on course. Maximum 1-year contracts for 32s. Maximum 2-year contracts for 30s. We're not being judged. Minimum 2-year contracts now for first team players. End of next season, they just want to attempt to avoid relegation from the Premier League, and then hopefully we get a contract renewal if we're successful. To go back to the board feedback then, so they want to play attacking, direct football with making the most of set pieces, also playing entertaining football and counter-attacking football. Now, with the tactic that we've been using in this save so far, I'm not too sure we can do that with the personnel that we have at the club. So we're either going to have to go out and buy those kinds of players, or the board are just going to have to taper their expectations a little bit, because I don't think it's possible if they want to stay in the league to play that football. From the supporters, we get an A-. And once again, they want attacking direct football, make the most of set pieces, play entertaining football, play counter-attacking football. So their expectations in terms of other clubs, be competitive against Wolves, competitive against Aston Villa, and get the better of our rivals Birmingham if we happen to play them. Now, obviously, we're not in the same division. That one doesn't really apply. Notable highlights, so they're impressed with the 2-0 win against Preston, a highly impressive 5-1 dismantling of Rotherham, and pleased with the 2-0 victory against Leicester. They are disappointed with Semir J's recent performances. Before wrapping up season 1, I'm going to have a little look at the first team squad. We're going to look at it in 2 different ways. So firstly, I'm going to show you what I feel my best 11, or the 11 I would pick most often is. Then we'll have a look at my assistant's idea of our best 11 and see how the two match up. From that, we should be able to draw up where we have some weaknesses and maybe see where we can improve or strengthen the squad. So to start me off, I would go with Palmer in goal, Townsend, Suter, Keiki Rocha and Paulinho as my back 4. OK and Kayan Barros in the middle of the park. Diangana, Swift and Kevin across the middle 3 and Wendell up top. So as you can see, we did stick with the 4-2-3-1 for the first season. It got us where we needed to be in winning the championship, going up to the Premier League. We have a little look at some of the players that come in then. So Wendell, the first one, he came in January, played in 10 total games, scoring 7 goals. As I said at the time when I was announcing the signings, he might not be one that plays in the Premier League too often, but he's certainly given himself every chance with his performances early on in the save. If we look at Kevin, another one who came in January, he might be a little lightweight for the Premier League, but certainly is one who is a work in progress. I do feel he can get better, although this box down here with the fitness where it says sprained knee ligaments is one that causes me a little bit of worry, because it also means his bravery has dropped off completely. But he's a player that's definitely a work in progress. We had Swift playing behind Wendell. He had a really good season, played 41 games, scored 23 goals, had 14 assists, and he's definitely one that we are going to look to build upon when we go into the Premier League, unless an offer comes in that we absolutely cannot refuse. Kayan Barros, he had started a number of games since January, 13 in total, 1 assist. Didn't have the best of ratings, but I do feel that he's a work in progress also, and he's really starting to bed into the team. We then have Paulinho, who came in, made the right back slot his own. Another one who played in 10 games, and another one who has started to show good signs of development. And at the back we have Keiki Rocha. He's also shown really good signs of improvement, and I think that he could be set up to be a Premier League defender, and we have no real reason to replace him unless somebody comes along that really makes me change my mind. Looking at the squad planner then, and going into our best 11 according to our assistant. So he would go with Palmer, Townsend, Kipre, Suter and Avila, but obviously Avila is on loan, so wasn't going to include him because he'll go back to his club. We can't afford to pay, or I don't really want to pay for Avila in terms of the agreement that we have. So Paulinho was the player in purple. Then we've got Malumbi, OK Yokosulu. We've got Kayan Barros in purple there. We've got Diangana on the left, Swift and Sarmiento on the right. Sarmiento is another one we have no chance of keeping in season 2, but Kevin is the player in the purple box. And then we have Wendell and Daryl Dyke. So a lot of matching up there, and I do think that we are okay going forwards in terms of matching up how he's thinking and I'm thinking and where the squad is really going. In terms of the report, overall depth is an issue. That is something that seems to be cropping up quite a lot now. I'll be honest with you, I don't like to have mountains of players because none of them stay happy. You can't get the rotation right. So I do like to streamline my first teams, but I do feel that we still are going to need more players for the Premier League regardless. Then there's concentration, crossing, determination, long throws, work rate, teamwork, bravery, balance are some of the weaknesses, but the strengths, communication from the goalkeepers, eccentricity from the goalkeepers. Swift's 23 strikes ranked him second in the competition for the championship. Wage budget, plenty of room in the wage budget to go out and buy players of Premier League standard. Then the youth prospects, we have a long list of youth prospects who could come through. So hopefully we'll get to keep our eyes on some of those. And if any of them make the step up, we'll be able to show you those as we go along. And then jumping reach is the final one on there. There are a few others, but that's just a taster of exactly how we are thinking about the team. And I do feel like we're going to need to strengthen pretty much everywhere. I mean, if we go back and have a last look at this starting 11, Wendell, I think, will give him the benefit of the doubt. Kevin looks a bit lightweight, and then you've got these two players who are original. Then you've got Kayan Barros, who needs game time to improve, same as Paulinho and Rocha. But I do feel that overall this is a championship squad still. So hopefully, if we can move a few players on and build that balance up to not feel so bad for spending 31 million more than the club have, we might be able to just go out and strengthen in all of the positions. And if not, we're going to target certainly defence and attack. I think the midfield is okay for now. Right then, if you are still with me at this point of the video, firstly, a big thank you. Secondly, if you don't mind hitting the like and subscribing to the channel, it really, really helps when you interact with the channel. It's been growing so much across the past couple of months, and I cannot thank you all enough. It's all because of people like yourself who come along and interact with the channel. Before you go, don't forget there's other things on the channel, such as Let's Plays, there's Wonder Kids, there's hints, tips, tutorials, a little bit of something for everybody on the channel. But for this one, I'm going to leave it there. Big thank you for watching. Hopefully I'll see you on part 2 of the West Bromwich Albion save soon.